News now at this hour begins with update on U.S. politics. U.S. President Joe Biden has announced that he will end his candidacy for re-election, saying it is in the best interest of his party and the country. It comes 4 months before Americans go to the polls, upending the race for the White House. It follows weeks of intense pressure from fellow Democrats after a faltering debate performance against Republican Donald Trump at the end of June. Following the announcement on Sunday evening, President Biden gave his endorsement in the presidential race to Vice President Kamala Harris. In a letter posted on a social media account, he said it had been the greatest honor of his life to serve as president. Earlier, we were joined by a global affairs analyst, and he said that it is going to be a very tight race. And joining us on the news to share his thoughts is Achike Chude, a global affairs analyst. Achike, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, how does President Biden's decision to withdraw from the presidential race impact the dynamics of the upcoming U.S. election and, of course, the global political stability that a lot of people are actually worried about?
Well, it's too early. It's too early to tell. I mean, he just made the announcement today. But the reality is that he had been trailing in the polls for quite some time. For the past 5 months, and you know, a lot of people felt that that the Justice Department had been weaponized and that the criminal cases, about 94 of them or so, against Donald Trump was motivated by politics, you know, rather than the need to bring Trump to justice, you know. And so people had thought that even when he was indicted in one of the cases, that it was going to affect him, but it did not. Instead, it drove a lot of people to make more contributions to his campaign. And so obviously people have been worried. And so especially in the battleground states where Trump, you know, a state that Biden had won in the last time in 2020, Trump is either slightly ahead in most of them. And then in a few of them, in 1 or 2 or so of them, he's, you know, tied neck to neck with Joe Biden. And so then after that disastrous debate performance, it was clear to the party apparatchik, the leaders of the party, that something that needed to be done. Otherwise, they will lose the November elections. And so the pressure had been piling for a very, very long, for quite some time now, against Joe Biden that he should drop out. And, you know, it just started with 1 or 2 members of the House of Representatives. And then it built up into a momentum where we have over 30 of them openly, you know, going against Joe Biden. And then the leadership of the party, people like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, you know, and Obama, you know, was said to be the puppet behind the scene, all putting pressure on him. And not only that, the donors themselves also began to make threats that they are going to pull their money, they are not going to support the campaign. And that, I think that was the clincher. Because if you do not have money to run a campaign, how do you run the campaign? Well, so I think the family held that for as long as they could, but it became very clear that something needed to be done.
Okay.
And Biden has.
Of course, and what is being done now, we now see Biden endorsing Kamala Harris as his successor in the race, and some people feel that this is going to be a rougher patch for the Democrats. What do you think might have influenced his decision, and do you think that Kamala Harris stands a better chance to stand toe-to-toe against Donald Trump?
Kamala Harris before now had not been a very popular vice president. Of course, you know that one of the major talking points of the politics of America today is immigration, which is number 1 in terms of the concerns of Americans, that people are pouring into the country, especially from the southern border. And when Joe Biden came in, he appointed Kamala Harris the border czar to stop the problem of the border. She didn't even bother to go to the border till the criticism got to a very high level, you know. And so it is not very certain that Kamala Harris will do very well against Trump. But I think, again, if you look at it, it's expected that when that happens, that there will be a bounce. Yes, Joe Biden has endorsed Kamala Harris, who is a natural successor to him because she is the vice president. And so, but people within the party are saying that there might be an open convention. What it means is that if there's an open convention, that the floor will be thrown open to anybody that wants to contest, for that to be able to run against Donald Trump. Now that would cause a lot of schism within the party, because there are some people who loyalists of Kamala Harris who say under no circumstance must any attempt be made to replace Kamala Harris. So I think ultimately at the end of the day, it will be Kamala Harris. Otherwise, you're going to have an internal civil war within the Democratic Party. And but it's still early. She could show up her poll numbers in the coming days, depending on how the kind of message that she has, for the American people. I think the major drawback is that a lot of Americans are facing serious economic issues. That is, the number two, apart from the border, the number two problem is, that of the inflation in America that has taken a lot of money away from many households in the United States. So these are the issues, and these are areas where the Democrats have very serious deficits.
So does it,
because they have been in government for the past 4 years.
Does it actually mean that Biden didn't actually address these issues that you've mentioned, inflation, the issue around immigration, the borderline, the economy, that even Trump has said is in shambles, but then when you look at it from the side of the Democrats, they feel that Biden actually handled it well. Would you say that the implementation and how Biden has gone about it has not really put the country in a better stead?
No, you see, when you look at the statistics in terms of jobs and all that, I think after some time, the economy began to, create a situation where, that a lot of Americans now, job opportunities began to open up for a lot of Americans. But I think that is not enough, because, you see, it's about the basic, food items, groceries, the cost of food. Gas. These are the things that have caused many serious problems for the Democrats. Of course, the border issue has been the biggest weakness of the Biden administration, because they were accused of leaving the border open, where about 11 million people have come, into the United States illegally across the open border. So the policy of the Biden administration was not helpful, and that is impacting against, the Democrats at this term. So the economy is really in bad shape. They tried to make some improvements, but people are going back. And if you ask anybody who wants to be objective, whether black, white, colored, Hispanics, whether 4 years ago that Donald Trump, whether the economy was better, whether they had more money, the answer tends to be a yes, rather than a no. And so these are the things that and they have to battle to be able to come up with a message that will resonate with Americans.
During Donald Trump's reign of 4 years to as president, quite a lot of things went south. Of course, violence, gun violence, and the economy. A lot of people felt that, Trump was the kind of person that was on couch when it comes to talking to people or addressing diplomatic issues, and that didn't speak well for him, giving precedence to Biden coming into power. Now, if the Democrats are going to pull an offset, or an upset rather, in the next 4 months, with the kind of person that Donald Trump is and the kind of momentum he's garnered, what do you think they should be doing to actually unstabilize the Republicans?
You're absolutely right. There's no doubt Donald Trump is not, in his attitude, is not presidential, and especially these mean tweets, that he tweets from time to time. It does not give a good impression of himself as president of the United Nations, of the United States. There's no doubt about that. But when you talk about policies, and I think that what people who do not like Donald Trump, what they say is that you need to look at his policies. And then when you look at the policies, and that's why because of these policies that some people, especially the blacks, are voting for him in the historic numbers. We've not, in the past 50 years, we've not had the black vote for the Democrats have always been about 95% or so. But that of Trump has been increasing. As at the last count, it was around 15 to 20, 22%. And it's likely going to increase some more, because they felt that apart from the tag of racism against him, that when it comes to his policies, that there is nothing racist about that. He was able to fund money to historically black colleges and universities, HSBUs, in America. and then the crime reform bill reform that he did favored a lot of Americans and Hispanics and people of color, minorities, and so on. So these are the issues. So they need, to do much more to be able to. I think it's all about policies. They need to set their policies. I'm talking about Democrats, those ones that they feel they have done well in the past 4 years.
Okay, Achike Chude, Global Affairs Analyst, thank you so much for your thoughts on this.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Many thanks for being there. We take you to the western part of Africa, where President Bola Tinubu on Sunday ruled out the achievements of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to African leaders. He spoke in Accra, the Ghanaian capital, while presenting the achievements of ECOWAS in the past year at the 6th mid-year coordination meeting of the African Union. Detailing the efforts on the humanitarian and social development fronts, President Tinubu said ECOWAS has allocated $9 million to assist persons of concern, including refugees, internally displaced persons, and asylum seekers. He said the frontline member states in the fight against terrorism have also been supported with $4 million under the ECOWAS counter-terrorism humanitarian response. And I'll tell you that Nigeria's Labour Party has refuted claims by the presidency that its presidential candidate, Peter Obi, and his supporters are behind the planned nationwide anti-government protest scheduled for August 1. The presidency described the calls for protests under the hashtags Tinubu Must Go and Revolution 2024 as treasonable. In a lengthy tweet published on his X account on Saturday, the special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, accused Peter Obi and his supporters of spreading the hashtags, alleging that they are not Democrats but anarchists. Onanuga, however, proposed a Save Nigeria rally from August 1 to 15, 2024, in response to the planned nationwide protests from August 1 to 10 against the rising cost of living and economic hardship. He claimed that those organizing the protests were also behind the EndSARS protests of October 2020, which later turned violent. And joining us on the news to discuss this is Chukwuma Okenwa, a political analyst, and he will be sharing his thoughts on this. Thank you so much, Mr. Okenwa, for joining us.
You're welcome.
So, first, what do you make of the presidency's allegation singling out Peter Obi and his supporters as sponsors of the scheduled protest for August, even going ahead to even calling it a treasonable offense? What do you make of that statement?
I think at best that could be described as baseless, considering the fact that the evidence suggests otherwise, because never at any point did we see Mr. Peter Obi calling for maybe the overthrow of the government or even for protest. Even when he had good grounds, when he was still expecting for the needful to be done after the elections, hopefully that the court would deliver justice, maybe in his own context. But that didn't happen, and just the very fact, so that that result was announced, and a lot of his supporters felt like, oh, let's take to the streets. And protest that INEC did not actually follow its guidelines. But he was the one that even addressed his followers and said, protest is not the way to go. Let's follow these things legally, and we saw that play out. And even up to the part when the Supreme Court gave justice, there was none of such things like motioning his followers to protest. So for someone to come out of the blues to suggest that a man who visibly could not be fingered in any way to connect his strategy to link up with protest would best be described as baseless.
Okay. Well, we know that protest is the civic right of any citizen in any country all over the world. It's actually backed by international laws. So why does it seem as though this administration and the ruling parties are averse to protests and open criticism, owing to the fact that they actually rode on that momentum to get into power?
Well, let me say something very important, because I really think that what the presidency did is a very smart one. To identify two of the hashtags that indeed are treasonable, and leaving aside the major issue, which is the end bad governance protest. Of course, for anybody to start calling for that a president that was duly elected democratically should go without actually following the law is treasonable, number one. And also like calling for a revolution is also treasonable because there's not a such thing like a bloodless revolution. But of course, the Constitution in a democracy provides for protest, and hence is peaceful, citizens are not armed, then the police should be able to provide the needed protection. And that is what Bayo Onanuga need to appreciate, that what largely more Nigerians are calling for, it's the presidency should look into issues around hunger, issues around the perils of the citizens, and not to leave those issues and begin to make it more political, by looking at other hashtags like Tinubu must go. I think what is resoundingly across Nigeria is that there is a need to end bad governance, and it is within the civil rights of the citizens to demand for such.
Okay, so Chukuma, let me play the devil's advocate here. Now, we see a government has actually distributed food palliatives, though states are yet to register reception. The House of Reps has actually slashed the salaries by 50%. We know that, of course, the Nigerian government has actually approved 70,000 as minimum wage. The CNG vehicles and, of course, conversion has been rolled out. Loans are being given to students, and an appreciable amount is added to the reserve, the cash reserve, the foreign reserve of the country. And the government is saying that there are lots more policies coming to bed that will actually cushion the effect of the policies of government over time. Now, aren't these enough to actually placate those who feel aggrieved by how this government has administered over the country? Maybe they should even come to table to dialogue with this government rather than take to the streets. What do you think?
Certainly not enough, because when you look at the microeconomic indices, the consequence upon the policies of the current administration, which have led to loss of jobs, movement of investors out of Nigeria, and even like the threatening of some local investors, like we see the politics that is playing around the Dangote refinery, which is not healthy for an economy that is actually trying to survive. I mean, the Naira keeps collapsing. And even like once in a while interventions, like we see from the government of trying to pound the fund inside, more like the Dutch disease, right? Where you have like free flow of dollars, and then its long-term implication is also to lead to further devaluation of Naira. Yes, things like that has not led to. So what Nigerians are actually demanding for is sustainable policies. If you distribute rice, for instance, how long is that going to last? How many Nigerians will that get? Is that really going to end the hunger that Nigerians are agitating for? Certainly not. Civil servants are also less than 1% of the population. So you increase the salary of them. What about policies that you did that have made it very difficult for the average Nigerian to put food on the table? How are you going to contend that? How are you going to manage the inflationary rate? So I really think that some of those policies that gets to the welfare of the common man has not been addressed by this current administration. And you cannot be considering any other thing as good enough to mitigate the agitation that currently we see, uprising from the citizens. And also like one of the legislators, I mean, if you cut down salaries without touching the allowances, how much is the salaries? The major problem is actually with the allowances, and Nigerians are very clear on their demands.
Okay, Chukuma Okenwa, political analyst, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Now, some Nigerians have tasked the nation's lawmakers to come out clean on how their donated salaries will be applied to tackling the current hardship affecting citizens. This followed the announcement by members of parliament from the House of Representatives who say they are donating half of their salaries for the next 6 months to help tackle the current food crisis affecting citizens. Idong Joseph reports.
For us to make sacrifices with our salary.
The announcement of the deduction of about 300,000 naira each from the salaries of about 360 lawmakers from the House of Representatives for the next 6 months had followed an appeal for organizers of a planned nationwide protest, which is scheduled to start from August the 1st, to shelve their plans. The protest is expected to get government's attention on the increased hardship being faced by citizens in the last 1 year.
The people of Nigeria, your crying is right. Your complaint of hardship is right. But is the solution found in carrying placard and lining the streets?
You have right to protest, our young men, but the nation first. We should be patriotic, we should be nationalists.
Acknowledging the concerns of the proponents of the proposed protest, lawmakers appealed for calm, urging aggrieved citizens to allow government's policies to manifest and tackle current hardship. They expressed confidence that the policies will get the nation's economy back on track.
We are appealing to our young men to give the government the benefit of the doubt.
I'm moving that we amend that prayer to include that members sacrifice maybe 50% of our salary.
With the gesture by the lawmakers being applauded by many citizens, they however raised concerns on how the monies donated will be delivered to those who need the support.
Are they going to be deducted at source, or each person would actually release this upon payment to the central account that will be dedicated for this purpose, and then that same transmitted to appropriate government office?
Some members of parliament, including several citizens, are also urging those in the executive arm of government to follow suit.
Just now, we cut our salaries. Mr. Speaker, I want to appeal to executive to do so. From Mr. President to Vice President to ministers to chief executive officers.
We must all come together to build a more formidable Nigeria and to ask the government of the day to look into issues that have been driving so many agitations in this country.
As a country, if we want to succeed, there is the need to pay a lot of attention to the state governments as to how they apply the resources of the people.
The lawmakers are also calling for dialogue with the proponents of the protest, saying if the situation is not properly managed, the protest can be hijacked by hoodlums and miscreants and lead to the destruction of properties of many innocent citizens, as was witnessed in 2020. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Now, for several years, the Umuahia-Ikotepene Road has been in a bad state with little attention given to it by the federal government. All the promises to get the road fixed by various administrations failed until recently when a construction firm was seen on the road. News Central's Chude has more in this report.
Shortest route to Akwa Ibom State from Umuahia, Abia State capital, but has been in a deplorable condition for as long as many commuters can remember, yet the longest and most frustrating route. Any journey which takes motorists through this route must have been one that leaves them with no choice. Recently, reconstruction work started on the road at various sections, giving hope to road users that their woes on the road would soon be over.
It's been over 3 months since the construction firm in charge of this road got to this point, yet we are still where we are right now.
There are no explanations on what might have led to the suspension of work on the road, but whatever caused it is definitely taking its toll on commuters.
What we are praying is that whatsoever that they know that they will do, let them come and do it fast so that the people will enjoy and also praise them on what they have done so far.
The road is so bad that and then it's just out of negligence and then out of neglect. It's not that the resource is not there to fix it, but then I can't really say who should have done what should be done, but the road is terrible. It's so bad. In fact, some drivers have stopped flying this route.
All the previous palliative measures carried out by the federal and state governments on the road to ease movements only provided temporary succor. Efforts to get the federal government to fix the road began many years ago through the former federal legislators from Abia Central Senatorial Zone, but only got a little attention. In 2015, this was the state of the road, and by 2017, the Federal Road Maintenance Agency announced commencement of repairs on the same road. In this 2024, this is the state of the road.
When the government work this road should be okay so that people will enjoy the road. We thought that maybe by now the road was supposed to be completed, but until now the road still bad.
The reconstruction of this Umuahia-Ikotepene road has taken so many years. But this time around, the citizens are believing that the reconstruction work will actually become something that will come to an end someday.
For the road users, it does not matter whose responsibility it is to reconstruct the road, as all they care about is for the road to be fixed. In Umuahia for News Central, Chinwe Ugele.
We'll go on a very short break again on the news. When we return, we'll bring you all the stories. Don't go away. Dozens more in holiday flights have been cancelled across the UK, resulting in a third day of travel chaos for airline passengers following CrowdStrike's botched software update. After hundreds of flights were grounded by the global Microsoft IT outage on Friday, knock-on delays have continued throughout the weekend, with EasyJet so far cancelling 24 flights at London Gatwick and British Airways cancelling a dozen of flights at London Heathrow on Sunday. It comes as Microsoft released a recovery tool to help repair Windows machines hit by the glitch after the company disclosed that 8.5 million devices were affected. The tool is designed to aid in quickly recovering impacted machines via a bootable USB cable and drive. Meanwhile, the Australian Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill revealed on Sunday that CrowdStrike has told the federal government it is now close to rolling out an automatic fix which will enable systems to return online. Earlier, we were joined by a cybersecurity analyst, Olusomi Fabode, who shared his thoughts on this.
Outages like this occur. They occur regularly, but most of these companies have a way of covering up their tracks and ensuring that it doesn't affect many customers. In this situation, because of Microsoft's market share and because CrowdStrike is the #1 leading managed cybersecurity platform for most of these multinationals, the issue was inevitable because a lot of these companies are using CrowdStrike as their security provider. So if Microsoft is your primary operating system and you're protecting your systems against cyber attacks, ransomwares, then it is inevitable that your system might get affected by this update. So the only way this could have been avoided is basically to have a redundant system and infrastructure that ensures that you don't just put all your eggs in one basket. That means you have a backup.
In Nigeria today, undergraduates face puzzling challenges in deciding what career path to pursue after graduating. For young graduates, the task of learning skills even after years in school is daunting. News Central's Chude gives us more details in this report.
The educational system has always been a part of crucial conversations in official and unofficial affairs. Among young Nigerians, it has been a challenge coping with cumbersome curriculums in school and coming out to face a different reality.
People think English is just for teaching. You just come out of school and start teaching. And to get jobs like that, I don't know, it's very, very low. But the reason why I'm actually studying English is because I want to go into journalism. But looking at it now, with the way the whole thing in the country is going, I don't know. I don't even know if I should take that path or I should just focus on what I'm doing presently.
Based on what I study now, I don't think Nigeria is favorable in my course. So the best thing for me is to jackpot and get out of this country. I think, yeah.
Currently, yeah, I don't feel like this whole system engineering stuff is going to take me far with the way the country is going.
To many fresh graduates in Nigeria, the labor market has been unfavorable as they have to yet again equip themselves with a skill entirely different from what they studied in school. The concern becomes how the government will bridge the gap by upskilling students before leaving school.
the Nigerian labor market right now is very, very tough. And I believe schools should do better in including that into their curriculum. So basically, they are not training youth for the future. So there's a perception that, oh, you go to school, you read law, from law, for example, you read law, from law you become a lawyer, and there's no provision for what if you cannot jobs as a lawyer, what do you do? The curriculum in schools should be tailored and done for when I leave school as a student, I should be able to set up myself and not wait for governments or private bodies to employ me.
Another means to create a more flexible curriculum for students is taking advantage of what today's technology offers.
As a country, I think Nigeria needs technology to solve a lot of our societal problems, to be able to also, gain access to education at the highest quality. The beauty of technology is that it can democratize education, which means that you can reach millions of people with education. Virtual teaching now is the norm in most courses. So technology, I think, is at the heart of our development as a nation.
As we tackle the problem of rigid tertiary education curriculum, more young graduates should equip themselves with beneficial skills, as learning never stops. In Lagos for News Central, Chude.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Dangote Refinery, Aliko Dangote, says the refinery's product is in compliance with the global standards of 50 parts per million, with a test from the refinery showing 32 parts per million and 96 flash points for its diesel. During a visit by the leadership of the House of Representatives to the refinery on Saturday, Dangote revealed that the products refined at the petroleum refinery and petrochemicals plant, the world's largest single-train refinery, are of superior quality compared to imported equivalents and meet international standards. News Central's Adeshiwo Dushoga reports.
With the rising prices of fuel driven by an import-dependent oil and gas sector and a fluctuating foreign exchange, Nigerians more than ever before had looked forward to the commencement of the sale of petrol refined by the Dangote refinery. However, the production of fuel and sale, which was expected to begin in August, received knocks from the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, which alleged that the refinery had not been duly licensed, citing concerns of monopoly and inferior quality. In response to this allegation, the Chief Executive Officer of the Dangote Refinery, Aliko Dangote, reiterated that its products are in compliance with the continental and global standards. He said this during a visit by the House of Representatives led by the Speaker, Tajuddin Abbas, to the refinery.
As of today, we are 87 ppm, and I assure you, media, you can come again and take sample on Monday. By Monday, latest Tuesday will be at 50 ppm. By beginning of August, will be at 10 ppm. I just got the result from him 5 minutes ago. We are now down to even 32 ppm.
This remarkable achievement does not merely reflect corporate successes. It symbolizes national pride.
During the tour, a sample of the diesel from the facility was obtained by the lawmakers from the refinery to test for the parts per million and the flash point. After the test, the refinery CEO revealed that the products were tested at 87.6 ppm at the first testing and went further to drop to 32 ppm. The flash point was also tested at 96 in accordance with the global standard.
The concept is this: there is no country in this world, none, that's countries that know what they're doing, that will allow development to be stunted because you want to bring in imports.
Every single cargo of petroleum product going out of this refinery has to be certified by NMDPRA. I cannot sell either locally or overseas without their approval.
The Dangote refinery is Africa's biggest oil refinery with a capacity to produce 650,000 barrels per day. with a chance to build the refining capacity of the entire African region. The $19 billion refinery has ended years of long wait for a plant set to create a market of $21 billion per annum of Nigerian crude. In Lagos, for News Central, Adeshawa Odushoga.
Let's now tell you that Sudan's de facto leader, Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, has received the Iranian ambassador on Sunday at Port Sudan and sent home to Tehran while cementing a rapprochement after an 8-year rupture. Sudan and Iran agreed last October to resume diplomatic relations as the army-aligned government scrambled for allies during its war with the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The Red Sea city has become Sudan's de facto seat of government since Khartoum became racked by violence. It's now time for business news from our business desk.
This is business news. We begin in Nigeria. Nigeria's e-Naira, Africa's first central bank digital currency CBDC, launched in October 2021 to boost financial inclusion and drive Nigeria's cashless policy, has struggled to gain significant traction. Despite a substantial increase in circulation since its inception, the e-Naira still represents a microscopic fraction of the total currency in circulation, accounting for less than 1% as of March 2024. The Central Bank of Nigeria has made concerted efforts to promote the e-Naira, offering various access points, including a dedicated mobile app and a USSD code for feature phone users. Additionally, the CBN has introduced tiered wallet options to cater to different segments of the population, from unbanked individuals to fully banked customers. To incentivize adoption, the Apex Bank has waived transaction fees and implemented regulations to foster a conducive environment for e-Naira transactions. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa signed the Pension Funds Amendment Bill into law on Sunday, revising the country's pension system. This legislation introduces a two-part system aimed at enhancing retirement savings. The bill amends several acts, including the Pension Funds Act and the Government Employees Pension Law, to implement this new structure. Pension funds are now required to adjust their rules, investment portfolios, and administrative systems to allow members to access portions of their funds. Building on the 2023 Revenue Laws Amendment Bill, the changes will take effect on September 1, 2024. Under the new system, 1/3 of retirement contributions will go into a savings pot, accessible before retirement and subject to income tax, while the remaining 2/3 will be allocated to a retirement pot. This initiative seeks to provide greater financial flexibility and security for South Africans planning for retirement. And finally, in North Africa, Egypt's food exports soared to 220,000 tons in the week ending July 19. This is according to the National Food Safety Authority, NFSA. This includes over 500 varieties of fresh fruits, vegetables, and other food items. Leading the vegetable exports, Egyptian onions shipped 22,000 tons, potatoes 16,000 tons, and beans 15,000 tons, totaling 60,000 tons across 72 varieties. Citrus fruits dominated the fruit exports with 22,000 tons, followed by strawberries at 12,000 tons and mangoes at 8,000 tons, making a total of 50,000 tons from 67 varieties. During the week, Egypt's produce reached 160 countries, with Sudan, Saudi Arabia, Syria, and Italy being the top destinations. That's our offering on business news at this time. Thank you for watching. I am Perpetua Fasamipita. The news continues shortly. Bye for now.
We now bring you sports news.
In sports, Nigeria has clinched promotion to the Davis Cup World Group 2 following decisive victories over Ghana in the ongoing Group 3 Africa qualifiers. Christopher Bulus and Michael Emmanuel led Nigeria to victory by defeating Abraham Asaba and Isaac Note in identical 6-3, 6-2 matches. This win ensures Nigeria's advancement regardless of the outcome of the third game, concluding the competition on Saturday, the 20th of July. Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire face relegation to Group 4, while Benin Republic will remain in Africa Group 3. Additionally, Zimbabwe and Namibia secured places in the World Group 2 with strong performances at the event held in Abuja. The National Paralympic Committee of Ghana has categorically denied rumors that a Ghanaian Paralympic team absconded in Oslo, Norway. In a press release, NPC Ghana described the reports as false and maliciously misleading and urged media outlets to retract the stories and apologize. The NPC Ghana stated that the individuals involved have admitted to facilitating the trip with forged letters from the NPC Ghana and the defunct Ghana Amputee Football Association. These individuals are not associated with NPC Ghana. Their actions constitute impersonation and misrepresentation. Earlier on, President of the African Paralympic Committee, Samson Dane, emphasized on the highly implicating matter.
Let me make it emphatically clear that the Ghana Paralympic Committee have not applied for a visa for any persons to participate in any game whatsoever in any country in the Schengen area or in the Schengen country called Norway. What has happened is that we have mushroomed disability foundations in our country. And one of them is NST Disability Foundation. These embassies always take persons or applications or informations or support requests from these foundations and do sometimes organize events and programs by not checking their credibility background and not doing due diligence. And the State Foundation applied for a visa for this group of people. In their earlier application, they were 7 people. The application were refused, and the embassy requested that they submit a letter from my office. When they did that and were refused, they had to go and look for my letterhead and my signature, forged them, and submitted the application again, and were granted visa for 7 people.
And that's a wrap on Sport Update. I am Udoka Njoko.
And that's all at this hour, but before we go, we'll take a look at some of our top stories. U.S. President Biden drops out of the U.S. 2024 election race, endorses Harris. Nigeria President Tinubu rules out ECOWAS wins to African Union leaders. We also told you Labour Party faults government's allegations of Peter Obi's involvement in protests. Do send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number and email on your screen, where you can follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can equally watch us live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekan Onabanjo.